Hello, lovelies. Welcome to another episode. Today, I am so excited to bring you a very special guest, Deborah Dannenfeld, who does work with transitions and helping people create new beginnings. Special, specific, perfect topic for this time of year. I am so excited to have this conversation with Deborah today to help us identify what makes change so challenging and transitions so difficult, and how to go about doing that seamlessly and as easily as possible so that we can create the life that we want, regardless of what we are going through. And we could have new beginnings at any time that we desire. Stay tuned. You're in for a treat. Hello and welcome. I have a lovely new friend today to share her expertise, her wisdom, and her beauty with us. She does amazing work with people who are having changes, big changes in their lives, and who are going through transitions. I'm going to read her bio and then we'll say hello to Deborah Dannenfeld. So she is the owner of Photosynthesis Coaching, and she's the life coach specializing in supporting people in midlife who are starting over. She has been coaching for over 12 years and moved into the niche when she had her own big changes in her life. Her life felt like it was upside down, and she found herself in a position of navigating several big things and painful at the same time and all at once. So, Deborah coaches from the heart and compassionately helps her clients to work their edge and move through tough changes with grace. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Deborah. I really appreciate you agreeing to come and share your wisdom and all the beautiful nuggets that you have to help people who are having a hard time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, why don't we jump in with a big question? And that is, what kind of changes and transitions do people usually experience in their life? Or what are some of the life transitions and things that people generally experience, and usually, and also what are the ones that you specialize with?
Right. So, I mean, life is full of change. It's all change, right? And so there are many, many kinds of change, and some of them we navigate without a problem, and some of them are really difficult. And the ones that are difficult for me might not be difficult for you, and vice versa. So, I mean, I would say the changes that people come to me with most often are either they're thinking about retirement, or they're going through a divorce or a big breakup, or they're going through empty nest, or they've lost a job and their whole identity was wrapped up in that job. And so, who are they and how do they move forward? And a lot of these changes are about identity. Sometimes people come to me if they've had to move and it was a home that they thought they would live in for their entire lives. And that's creating a lot of feelings and resistance. So those are generally the kinds of changes. There are other changes too. Sometimes I've had some people come to me when their kids have gone to kindergarten, and that's like a mini empty nest. It's to some of us, it's no big deal. And in fact, maybe we're even a little bit happy to have some time to ourselves because our kids are going off to school. But for some people, it's like, what do I do now? And who am I without taking care of my kids 24/7? So that's a little bit of a taste of the different kinds of changes.
Yes, I love that. And something else that I usually encounter is having kids. Getting
Having
married.
kids, for
Mhm.
sure. Or even and those are the changes, like having children or getting married, where you might not feel allowed to have any negative feelings about it because it's something you wanted. It's something you're actually very happy about. And it's confusing that you might feel a sense of loss for your old life. And because we have this sort of dualistic society, or a society where we think in dualistic terms, we feel like, well, I can't be happy and sad at the same time. But actually, we can. And we can have a multitude of feelings at the same time. And sometimes, even with these changes that are so exciting and so good and so much what we want, we also have a loss, and we have to be able to mourn those losses at the same time and allow ourselves to mourn those losses, even for the happy
Yes,
things.
absolutely. I love that. Exactly. So the changes could be large or small, tragic, negative, what we consider negative or painful, or happy ones, and yet they could all be challenging in their own way because there is some inherent things in changes and in transitions. So what does make changes and transitions challenging? Like why are they hard? Why is change hard?
I think that change is hard. Well, first of all, a little bit about what we were just talking about. Like we have an idea of how we're supposed to feel about
Right.
them. And then when we don't, we have all kinds of judgments about that. And I think the unknown is really, really hard for people, just for humanity. We don't like to jump into something, a big dark hole. We don't know what's going to happen on the other side. We like to have control. We like to know what we're getting into. And so, and especially when we're forced into a change that we didn't want, we haven't even had time to maybe prepare ourselves mentally for it. And so it really, that jumping into the unknown can be very, very scary. I think that that's a big part of why we don't like it.
What a good point. Exactly, especially if it wasn't something that we sought out, right? So,
Right.
I mean, as we said, they're challenging even with things that we want. So even
Mhm.
with things that we don't want or that just got sprung on us,
Right.
even harder because now you have to adjust to this whole new thing.
That's right. And just imagine if it's hard to make a change that you wanted, how much harder is it going to be to make a change that you didn't want? And we like to get settled into our lives, think we know what to expect, even though we know somewhere in our minds that we have no control, really. We have very little control over what happens. But we fool ourselves into thinking that we do have control because that makes it easier to put one foot in front of the other and take the steps that we need to take to move forward in our lives. And this is like a rude awakening, kind of like having a child. The child is there, I think, first and foremost to show us that actually you thought you have control over your life. You don't have any control. Things are going to happen that you cannot control. Um, yeah, and that happens with a lot of different kinds of change.
Yeah, absolutely. So, right. So even if you like it, it's hard. Even if you wanted it, it's hard. Never mind if you didn't want it, and especially if you weren't anticipating it or expecting it, if it surprises you, because now
That's right.
everything's upside down and you were not ready for it or
You're not
prepared
ready
for it.
for it, and it may just not be how you saw your life moving forward. If you saw yourself living in a particular home for the rest of your life within your community, and now suddenly you have to move, that that that's a real, it's a jarring effect. Or if you're getting a divorce when you thought you were going to be staying together, and then you're worried about the impact on the kids also if you have children. Um, it's yeah, it may also be changes that it's hard to see the benefit because you're so invested in the benefit of your life being the way it is and the way you had planned for it to be.
That is perfect. Right. I think that's a huge thing. Aside from trying to have control, and we know that we can't, right? Because things just play out, and no matter how much we exert control or power over something, things still potentially go sideways or play
Right.
out differently than we had expected. But aside from that, I love what you just said is okay, you expected things to be a certain way or to play out a certain way, or you were committed to the thing or the person, and you had this idea of how things were going to be, and now it's not. So earlier you mentioned a loss. Now we're talking about adjusting to is something different. So having maybe like an identity tied into
Yeah.
also what was or what is and what is happening was to become. And that's just like woohoo.
Right.
Right. So how does that play
Yeah.
out?
Well, I think that that's a really good point, that it often really is about identity. And I tell a sort of funny story about a bicycle that I used to have I loved that bicycle. It was a bicycle from the 70s. It was really a nice bike. It was black. It was just beautiful. And I rode that bike everywhere. It was my mode of transportation. That's how I got everywhere. And I was completely identified with that bike. And the day it got stolen, it was like a part of me was gone. And if I'm identifying with something as seemingly insignificant as a bicycle, like just imagine when you're uprooted or you're getting a divorce, and now even if you maybe wanted the divorce, but now you have to maybe come to terms with the fact that, wow, my idea of living with the father of my children for the rest of my life is upended. And who am I if I'm not the person who is doing that? Or who am I if I don't have this job in academia or whatever industry it is that I'm in that I'm so fully identified with? Or, who am I if my kids are gone and now I'm not in a mothering role all the time? Of course, you're always a mother, right? Or your father. But if that is not, if your identity is so wrapped up in that, then that's really what you have to grapple with when it's taken away or when you give it up.
Right, because the identities inform how we feel about ourselves, how we think about ourselves, the things that we do, the habits, the behaviors, the routines, like it just informs everything. It's like the filter. And now you remove this label, and it's like,
Right.
what now? What do I filter through? Like now, how do I make decisions? How do I adjust? What do I do on a daily basis? How do I introduce myself to people? Or what is the meaning of my life? And like all these different things might come up.
That's right.
Yeah, so super powerful. Not for nothing, it's challenging to go through changes in
That's
people's
right.
there.
That's right. Because we make so much meaning about
Yes,
everything.
yes. Okay, wonderful. I love that. So if that's what's happening, we already mentioned loss and the struggle, but what else do you think people are experiencing, feeling at a loss? What else does this shift, this upendedness mean for people? What is the impact? What do people experience?
Well, I think that they may at first experience a real resistance, especially if it's a shock, like, wait,
Mhm,
what? No, I don't want that. And they may try to do everything they can to sort of roll back what's happening.
mhm.
Um, and I think that there's a lot of grief associated with change. I think that is sort of the biggest thing. And grief is a huge topic, right? And it's not just about when somebody dies, right?
Right.
Grief can, although of course those are other people that I work with as people who have lost somebody, right?
Right.
There's a lot of grief involved, and there can be anger, there can be resistance, and there can be all those steps that we know and that people go through in grief, all of the denial and all of those things. Um, but I think that often it's a real just sense of sadness and loss. And if people can allow themselves to just be with that and feel what they feel. And I had a client who had lost her spouse and was talking to me about, you know, how she couldn't believe it, that she just didn't want to do anything. It was hard for her to sleep. It was hard for her to get up, all those things that are associated with grief. And I said, how long has it been since your husband died? And she said, it's been 4 weeks.
Oh
Like
gosh.
that was enough time. That should have been enough time. This is a side of herself that she didn't know, that she had never experienced, that was unfamiliar. So I think that's also another part of it. You're seeing yourself in a way that you've never seen yourself before. And
Very
while you're getting
interesting.
to know that side of yourself, I think it can be very unsettling, and it can be very scary. How long is this going to last? It feels
Mm,
like it's going to last forever. I can't feel like this for the rest of my life because I can't not be able to do anything or move forward. Right.
right. Wow, yes. So there's so many things. There's a whole range there, right? So from anger, resistance to sadness and loss and grief and denial, like the whole thing. I'm going to throw in there anxiety, depression, just
Oh,
feeling all
absolutely.
up and down and turn around and inside out.
Right. And it
um,
may be up and down, right? You may have moments where there may be moments of relief depending on what it was, right? Oh, I do feel relief about this. I am enjoying this aspect of my new life, or I'm looking forward to this, but I'm also feeling really sad and I'm feeling really anxious and scared.
right, right. They might love the change. They might have
Hmm.
beautiful feelings around that, joy
Hmm.
and excitement, but
Yeah,
also like, oh my goodness, this is scary or overwhelming.
right.
Yeah, all those feelings. Very nice. So do you find that people don't own those feelings, or that they struggle owning that experience, or that they dismiss it, minimize it, not own it? Like
I,
how do
I do
people
find
usually
that
go?
yeah, I find that happens sometimes. I mean, in the example I just gave, like all right, I'm letting myself feel the feelings, but for this amount of time, and then I should be over it, right?
Oh, right.
Decide when I should be over it. The universe has other plans. Um, and then I hear a lot of, you know, people have it so much worse than I do. People are starving and experiencing war and you know, I didn't go through the Holocaust, so, or I didn't experience slavery. So how I shouldn't feel this way. I don't really have the right to feel this way because other people have it so much worse than I do. I have a friend who's going through A, B, C, D, and E. I'm only going through A.
Mm,
Well, you feel what you feel, right? And you're having the experience you're having. And if you dismiss that feeling because you feel like you're not entitled to it, you're not actually helping yourself to move through it. You're just pushing it away.
right.
And that voice of sadness or whatever emotion you're having is just going to have to talk louder. If you're shouting over it with, you shouldn't feel this way, it's going to come out in other ways in your life.
Excellent. Yeah. You know, and I could imagine that that's especially true for people who are going through changes and transitions of things that they wanted, or happy things,
Right.
right? So I hear this a lot post weddings. People have
Oh, interesting.
amazing time
Yeah.
getting, planning the wedding, they plan the wedding, they get married, and then it's like, whoops, there's like a huge letdown after the wedding planning,
Right.
right? Because like all that investment that went into the wedding planning, and that not the transition to an identity of being married and the wedding planning, it's over. There's just all so many things that play
Right.
out at that place, but then they feel bad that they're feeling bad,
Right.
right?
And there's so much distraction in the planning of the wedding that even if feelings might be coming up around this big change that's going to happen,
Right.
they don't have time to even think about it or hear that voice or address it. They don't actually even really realize it's happening. So then that makes total sense. And it reminds me a little bit of, I know you're saying a wedding, which is a happy experience, but like a divorce can go one of a few ways also. Like you can, I think in most cases, people get to be either when the decision is made and or after the divorce, there are a
Mhm.
lot of feelings that come up.
Oh, for
But you
sure.
can have a partner who decided that this is what they want and spent a year or two or three thinking about it, talking about it with their spouse, planning it, um, or even before saying anything to their spouse, spending a lot of time mourning and working through all those feelings before it actually happens so that maybe once it happens, they actually just feel relief. But that mourning and that work and all those heavy, hard feelings have to be given
Somewhere.
space at some point. Right.
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 For sure. I love
Yeah.
that you said earlier that if the feelings are not honored, that they at some point they'll come out. They'll come out some way.
They come
And you
out, I feel like they come out some way. Either they come out in a very sort of an acting out way, like the emotions just, you don't even know why you're angry and you're getting angry at somebody, but it's displaced. It's not actually at the thing or the person that you're angry at. But I think also feelings are energy. their energy in our bodies. And I really believe that when you suppress those feelings, that energy has to go into something else. And I really believe that that's at the root of a lot of illness. That's
Yes.
why we get sick, whether it's a cold or something more severe.
Mm.
Um, that those feelings, if we don't allow them to be expressed or to be fully felt, because I don't think that you need to be like, necessarily expressing your anger in a big angry way at
Right.
somebody,
Right.
but it may be energy that you need to get out, which is maybe through, you know, hitting a tennis racket on your mattress, or I know somebody had suggested once, get a dozen eggs and throw the eggs as hard as you can in the bathtub, like
Oh,
get
wow.
the energy out. Or just allow yourself to sit and fully feel it and see what it's doing in your body, and have that somatic experience.
Yeah,
Do it.
however you release the feelings.
Hmm.
For sure, when they're not expressed or felt, they get stuck and it creates all kinds of stuff within your
Yeah.
body, but also relationally and in other
Yes.
areas of your life, right? So it manifests in a lot of different ways. So what do you think, and how do you help people know how to cope with all of this, how to manage their feelings? You already gave two examples, but anything else that you want to share about that? But
Hmm.
also, like, what to do? Like, how do they know? How do I deal with this change or this transition? My life is upside down. Now what? What the heck do I do?
Yeah. And I think that what happens often is there's a big change and you have a lot of big feelings about it. And it makes everything else in your life feel unmanageable.
Mm,
So then it feels like everything is changing and everything is hard. Now, it may be true. There may be a lot of things going on, but I find that there's often one thing at the root that that's like it's like the biggest rock in the backpack, and you have a backpack full of rocks. If you take the biggest one out, it's going to lighten it up a lot.
yeah.
So, right. So, um, how can we identify what that is? I mean, usually in my sessions, I do a lot of somatic work, a lot of work of like, well, just okay, if this feeling is coming up, let's see where it is in your body. Let's try to feel it and just sit with it. And I think that the most surprising things for people is that when they actually allow themselves to feel it, it can move through them and out. Um, whereas the fear is I'm going to have, if I really allow myself to feel it, it will never go away. And so
Isn't that
that's
interesting?
yeah.
Yeah, go
It
right
is
ahead.
interesting. Yeah,
Mhm.
no, I was going to say, so that's a big tool that I use both in my sessions and that I have my clients do on their own when they feel these things coming up. And I had a client who I was working with to decide whether or not to retire and then to actually go through. He just did decide to retire and then work through the retirement. But when he came to me, he had, I don't know, 4 or 5 different issues that just seemed so big that he didn't know where to begin. And
Excellent.
we worked through it to sort of identify this retirement issue as something that he really did want. And, I gave him a lot of tools and we spent, I guess, about 6 months working together on this. And in the end, he felt so good about that decision. It was the right thing for him.
Mm.
And all the other things that he had to decide, he just felt like I can just, I have the tools now. Like and I don't feel worried about it. And I can, as these things come up, I'll work with them. But right now, I feel good where things are.
You know what, Deborah, and I could imagine that when somebody has a big decision that they have to make, like a retirement, whether to get married, whether to get divorced, whether to
Right,
move across the globe or across country or across town, whatever the thing is, that it feels so big because it's, again, life changing to some
right,
extent. But then because it feels so big, there's all this other piece, or it feels so big rather, because there's all these other pieces that are attached to it. And then it feels
right,
like, oh my gosh, so much, I don't know where to start. Right, what do I do? And so I love that you said if you remove the first big rock out of the backpack, okay,
right,
what is the thing that if we make a decision around that, it's
right,
almost like a domino effect, and like everything else kind of falls into place because then you kind of everything else flows from that big decision or from
right.
that big move, right? So
That's
you
right,
just pull the lever on the biggest thing, and then everything's like,
right. Or
oh,
you realize that you were thinking about making these other changes but you're actually trying to make those other changes to see if you could make yourself feel better,
Mm.
but actually you don't feel bad about it anymore once you've, removed that big rock, right?
Oh, wonderful. Yes, what a
Yeah,
good point. Totally, right? So they're trying to make decisions on things that might not, if you make this big decision or you remove this big rock, then some of these other things are irrelevant, or they have to do with making yourself just feel better momentarily. But once you take care of this thing, then all of that
right,
goes away.
right,
Beautiful. Yeah, what a
right.
good point. I love it. So then how do you think people know what is that big rock? Like, what is the thing that they have to focus on?
Well, that's the thing that we sort of work through to find out, and we want to get it all out. What are all the thoughts and all the feelings and all the
Mhm.
concerns and all the anxieties? Let's sort of get it all out, and we see what sort of bubbles to the top. I feel like it's important in all of my sessions to work with, I always say, what's most present for you? What's most
Mm,
present for you right now? I know you've got all of these things, but what is the thing? Because some people have this idea that, oh, well, I've been really thinking about this, but I don't want to work on that. I want to work on this.
mm,
And I usually say, let's address this thing that's the most present because it's going to be connected to that. We're going to work through that thing that you really want to work on, but it's going to be hard to work on that if we can't get this obstacle out of the way, you
right.
know?
Yeah.
So usually, and it may be that we just need to sort of get past this and then we can move on to that other thing, or this is the thing. And by talking about this, we actually come up with a solution for the other thing.
Oh, I love that so much. Exactly. That shows up in my sessions with couples in that, they're obviously mad at each other and they want to
Right,
talk about something else. They're like some agenda item that they've had. And
right.
it's like, well, if you're not even barely talking to each other, how can we talk about the other thing? Let's figure out how to talk to each other first and get back on good graces
That's right.
first, right?
That's right.
And then through that, dynamics come out, all the things come out, and then you could use that for the other thing. So
Right. Sometimes they
exactly,
come up with
lovely.
a solution in that moment, right? Like, oh, well, now that we sort of worked through and I'm talking to you in this way and I have an understanding of, for me, it would be what I'm feeling. For you, it would be what the other person is feeling, right? Uh,
Hmm,
I can actually offer a different
right.
possible solution to this problem that we're not even talking about.
I love it. Exactly. Very, very nice.
Yeah.
And so, what are some things that people can do to make all of this easier for themselves?
Well, I think first, they may have to let go of the idea that it's going to be easy or easier. It's not easy, right? It's not easy, and sort of accepting that this is not going to be easy. Some of the things that I did when I went through a lot of the changes myself was just really, well, I had a lot of tools and a lot of things that I did, but one of the things that I said to myself was, I know that I have to have a certain amount of discomfort or pain in order to grow into who I'm meant to be.
Oh, beautiful.
And so if I'm feeling a lot of pain right now, it means that I'm growing. And then I
A
used
lot.
to say, I'm going to be really, really big on the other side of this. I'm going to be so big. I mean, and that helped. It was sort of a funny way of me to sort of talk to myself and get myself through it and to allow me to trust that this is where I'm supposed to be. It feels really bad and I'm really afraid, but there's some reason that I'm here because on the other side of this is the reward for me. And I don't know what that reward is. I don't know what my life is going to look like. But if I can let go of the fear long enough to trust that this is where I'm meant to be, then I can take the next steps and I can move forward.
That's probably
And
the hardest thing out of all of it,
yeah,
out of the
I think
whole,
so.
you know, just how do I trust? How do I let go? How do I not control? How do I sit with this pain and trust that I'm going to be okay on the other side?
That's right.
How
That's
do I
right.
not like,
It is
how do I
hard.
not
And
do it?
some of that is, there are like the breath and journaling are really good tools for that. Yoga is really for sitting in what is, because our anxiety and our fear is all about what's going to happen in the future, whether the future is
Mhm,
tomorrow, or the future is a year from now, or the future is 10 years from now. The-
mhm,
It's all about so if you can say, I'm sitting here now, I am alive. I'm breathing. I feel the breath in my body. I had lunch today. I'm not starving. I
mhm.
fed my children today. Um, I have a roof over my head. Right now, in this moment, I'm fine. I just have to connect to the next moment where I'm fine.
Mm.
You
Yep.
know, that I think that's a sort of, and you may have to do it every 5 minutes.
You
I'm
know,
fine in this moment, you know, and to remind yourself when you're feeling that fear come up, that fear is about something in the future. Right now, I'm okay. And that doesn't mean you sit back and you don't do anything and you just trust that the universe is going to take care of everything. Because, you know, you have to take action. It's like
oh,
that idea that the universe reflects back to you what you put out.
mm.
So if you put out waiting, then the universe is going to reflect back waiting.
Oh my goodness, you just changed a lot of people's lives with that one statement.
Yeah, maybe.
That was
Maybe.
like a 2 by 2 against the forehead. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Wow, so many things came up for me as you were saying all of that. Let's see. The first thing that I want to observe is if anybody listening to this is having a reaction about, well, you ate and you have a roof over your head and some of the our basic needs are met, and you're thinking about other people who don't have that, and you're like, well, what do they do? So a
Mm,
couple of things that I would like to say, and then of course I would want to hear your thoughts, Deborah. I want to address that in two ways. One is that we don't want to be callous and say, well, we got to focus on ourselves.
hmm
But we don't have control over other people's lives and what their journey is and what they're choosing to experience and what their life is. If
hmm
they chose it or didn't choose it, or however it happens for them, at some level, there is a creation there.
hmm
That's for them to choose and do their own life. Ours is to do ours.
hmm
That's the first thought. The other thought is even they have blessings, even in those moments. If they
hmm
really pause and take stock, the fact that they're even breathing and they have a body, that's a blessing. So
That's
there's
right.
always something to be grateful for. Even in the most horrific of situations, there's always still something.
That's right. And we don't certainly don't, you're right. We don't want to be callous and we don't want to compare, somebody who is food insecure, is starving, is homeless. Like that, these are problems that exist for people. Absolutely. And we can sit in gratitude for what we do have. And it doesn't mean that we're not in crisis. And it doesn't mean that we're not having all these feelings that we're having. And so, if we want to, I have a yoga teacher who was just saying this weekend, she was saying, gratitude is so important. And what is uh, like the outpost of gratitude? What is the next step from gratitude? The next step is service.
Mm,
So be in a place of gratitude so that you can get to a place of being able to serve others,
beautiful.
right? Take care of, if you are in a crisis situation,
Mm,
you may need to take care of yourself emotionally and physically at this moment. You may not be in a place of being able to serve other people if you are truly in crisis.
that's right.
And you can first get to the place where you are in a better place. Remind yourself of all the things you have to be grateful of. Move forward so that you can get to a place of then being able to serve others, whether that is your children or that is people through your work or that is through your philanthropy or that is through the volunteer work that you do. They're all different ways that we are here on this planet to serve people.
Absolutely. Very nice. That's very nicely said. Thank you. So the other thing that's coming up is how are we aware of what space we're in? What might we need? How do we proceed? Everything that we've said so far, like how does that impact our next moves and what we need and how we go about them?
Well, I think what you're pointing to is a certain level of self-awareness of
Mhm.
under really, I think it all starts with the feelings. What am I feeling? What is going on for me? What what am I something happens, I have a feeling about it, and then I make meaning about it, and then I have feelings about the meaning. So, so how can I differentiate between what is the feeling I'm having about this thing that actually happened,
Mm.
and what is the feeling I'm having about the meaning that I've made, the story I've told myself about that thing,
Excellent.
right? I lost
Yes.
my job. Wow, I'm really disappointed and upset, and maybe I feel betrayed, or all kinds of things, right? And this means I'm never going to be able to get another job. And that
It's making me
means that people
looser,
have been talking about
incompetent.
me behind my back for years, or whatever it is, the story that you make up. And then you have all kinds of feelings about that. And then you're angry at the people for talking about you behind your back, or saying these things, or not standing up for you. And actually, we have no idea that actually happened. So the place to start is realizing, oh, where am I doing that? Where am I making up a story? Where am I making meaning? And what is the actual feeling? And once I can sit with the actual feeling and allow it, then the next step will come out of that. The next step will come once you have honored whatever it is, the feeling that you have.
The self-awareness, this acknowledging of our feelings, honoring these feelings, then what? What do we do with that?
So then you sort of, I mean, as I was saying before, like often that feeling, once we honor and we feel it and we let it move through us, often there are messages in the feelings, I find.
Yeah.
There are messages that come to us, right? There's also a lot of information in our feelings. If you're really angry about something, how often do people talk themselves out of their anger?
Hmm.
Well, wait a minute. If you're really angry about something, and then there may be a reason. And what's the message in there? Is this a situation that's not good for you, or that's toxic in some way, and your body's reacting to it? Or is there some other feeling that's underneath there that's harder to feel? That anger is your go-to feeling, but actually there's a lot of sadness and you don't like to feel sad. And then what are the messages in the sadness, right?
Hmm.
And can I allow
Yes.
myself to feel sad? Um, and I find that often sort of very naturally leads to the next step, or to taking a step, or to understanding what that next right step is. You don't have to know the end. You just have to know what you feel in your body is the next right step. And that often comes through the feelings.
That's mind-boggling, blowing, I should say, mind-blowing for a lot of people,
Yeah.
because a lot of people don't like feelings, and everything needs to be logical, and everything
Hmm.
needs to be pros and cons list in their
Yeah.
logic, and they
Right.
spin the logic and connect all the dots in a gazillion million ways, and they still don't have an answer, right? And what I usually say, this is not a logical problem, right?
Right.
This is an
Right.
emotional situation, an
Right.
emotional air quotes problem. But if we honor the feelings and we get in touch, information is there that we could use,
Hmm.
right?
That's
And I
right.
love what
And
you
that's
said
how
about
we
anger.
learn to get in touch with our intuition too, right? Like
Mm,
that's how we learn to access that. Because you can make the list of pros and cons. That's great. Sometimes that's helpful. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like that can be helpful sometimes in some situations, right?
mm-hmm.
Can you get in touch with, oh, that really resonates, or that really doesn't resonate for me, right? This feels scary to me, but it feels like it's the thing I need to do.
You
Now, how
know,
do you differentiate? That's hard.
I love how you're saying that, because as soon as you connected it to intuition, some people could just hear people's reactions, right? Like intuition, like you have to make logical decisions, right? Like, what do you
Right.
mean intuition? But the way that you just describe that, that's actually intuition, that people might not necessarily call that intuition, right? Like some people who
Right.
are not as in touch with themselves, or the
Hmm.
softer side of themselves.
Right.
And does that resonate? Does that feel that I would honor me, or that would make sense for me,
Hmm.
right? Or however, like, just you want to play with language in a way that actually you're accessing that intuition, you're just not calling it intuition.
Right. People access it all the time without
Right.
realizing it,
Oh,
right?
for sure,
Yeah.
100%. So sometimes in terms of creating our life vision and doing life goals and setting ourselves up, especially this time of year when people are planning for the upcoming year, those people who plan
Right.
and who
Right.
envision and stuff,
Yeah.
right? oh, I should have goals, or I should do this, or that's the next logical thing that I should be doing, or this is something that I should want, or the next step in my career, or the next step in my business, or the next thing in our life. I don't know, right? And it's like, yeah, but maybe you're forcing it. Like, that is it the shoulds
Right.
or the things, or like, does it really serve you and what you're creating and your
Right.
joy at the end of the day, right?
Right. And it's such a great moment sometimes when they're like, I know I should do this, but I don't want to do it. And it's like, great. Can we just pause there? You don't want to do it. Like
Good,
that's a very real thing. Let's
right.
just sit with that for a minute, right? It's great that you have identified that you don't want to do this. So now we
Mhm.
have to sort of see, is that something you just need to trust? Or are there other reasons behind that I don't want to do it?
Right. Oh,
You know? Yeah.
yes, I do know. Very, very nice. So, are there good practices to put in place to help people with this owning, acknowledging, becoming aware of their feelings and honoring them, and just some of this parsing out that you're talking about, and just some of this sitting so that they could just like, okay, like, what is this, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are some things that you like to offer usually around this?
I there are a few things that I offer. I think meditation can be really helpful.
Yes.
Not everybody wants to sit and do meditation. You can do walking meditations, you can do guided meditations there, but I do feel like that can be really helpful. I feel like journaling is super helpful. And also just even if you're not meditating, but you're focused on your breath in moments of feeling a lot of anxiety, just focus on the breath as you're walking down the street, as you're um, eating your lunch, and being really mindful. Sometimes just that, like slowing down, can be like a meditation as well. And something that I offer to a lot of my clients is just that somatic practice of just, okay, this feeling's coming up for you. I invite you to close your eyes and just put your attention on where in your body do you feel it? Because every time we feel an emotion, there's actually a corresponding physiological sensation, right? A sensation in the body that we feel. And just get curious about it. You don't have to make it go away. You don't have to make it stay. Let it do whatever it's going to do and get curious about it. Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it big? Is it small? Is it tight? Is it a tension? What is it? And to just for 5 minutes, keep your attention on it, send your breath to it, explore it with some curiosity.
Love it.
And that's something that we do together and that they can then do on their own when things come up for them.
I love it. And I'm going to add that sometimes people have feelings come up, but they don't even know that they have feelings come up.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, people who are just very like stoic all the time, which is
Mm-hmm.
very,
Mm-hmm.
or they just blow their top. Eventually they end up blowing their top, right? Because
Right.
they repress so much.
Yeah.
And so what I would like to add to everything that you just said, which was so beautiful, um, is to make it your business, if you may, to check in throughout the day, right? So even
That's
if you're
right.
not, like, not to wait until the feelings come up to feel them, like every so often, like, okay, how am I doing? Right?
Right.
Just kind of check in, like, oh, I have feelings. I have
Right.
feelings going on. I'm
Right.
actually freaking out right now. I'm actually anxious right now. I'm
Yeah.
actually something right now. Or I have it pounding in my chest. Oh, interesting. I didn't even realize. Right. Okay,
That's
what is
right.
that about? Right.
Yeah.
And so even if we're not aware that, if we don't have the feelings to bring our awareness to, but to check in so that we can realize that we're having feelings. Right.
Right.
So the other way around too.
That's right. I had
Mhm.
a teacher once who gave us an exercise, well, a sort of instruction to take a whole bunch of like yellow stickies and write like maybe 20, right? And write breathe on all of them and
Mm.
put them around the house, like put them on the inside of your refrigerator, on the inside of a cabinet,
Oh,
and
I
every
love
time
it.
you saw it, you stop and you take a breath. And that was kind of a great way. Oh, I didn't even realize I was having these thoughts that were then I didn't, it's because I stopped in the middle of the thought that I didn't even know I was having, that I noticed also what I was feeling. It's kind of a great way to sort of stop you in your tracks. And every time you see it,
To check in. That is so beautiful. Sometimes we don't even know that we're holding our breath.
well, that too,
Right?
right?
So that is so good because, like, if you're mid thought and you're ruminating, or you're
pondering something or whatever, you're working through something in your head, and you're just going through the emotions, and you come across that breathe sticky, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh wow, I was holding my breath because I was thinking about this thing,
Right. That's right.
right? So
And
good.
there was a time when I was going through a lot of my really difficult changes. There was one particular time where the anxiety was so high. It
Hmm.
was so high. The only tool I could access was the breath.
Yeah.
I couldn't really even do anything else. Any of the other tools, like I couldn't, but the breath I was focusing on. And I was noticing that even when I would try to take a breath, the breath was very shallow. I couldn't get it
Breathing
to
was
go
hard.
deeper. And I just noticed it. I just said, okay, that's interesting. I'm breathing. My breath is really shallow. I'm trying to breathe in deeply and I'm not able to make it. That's interesting. Okay, keep breathing. That was the only way I could get myself through that time.
Wow, I love that. Thank you for sharing. It's so interesting because yeah, we half the time we're not aware, right? We're just in survival mode, like, and when we just take that pause, and even just breathing was even hard, right? And just
Right.
bringing awareness to breathing. Oh, my breathing is shallow. Okay, it's okay. Let me give myself some
Hmm.
love and compassion, right? So that's probably
That's
where we're
right.
going next.
That's right.
But so how can I just be kind to myself? I'm not going to judge that. Oh, I can't even breathe, right?
Right.
Right?
Right. That wouldn't have been helpful for me.
Right, but we
Right.
do that, right? We beat on
Hmm.
ourselves for, like, not being perfect, or not doing more or better
That's
or
right.
this or that or faster,
Hmm.
whatever, all the things. So, but go right ahead. You want to say more about compassion? That was really, it feels like a good segue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the key, right? Like, how can we're all about, oh, I'm so giving to other people and I'm very compassionate, but I don't give it to myself.
Mm.
And actually, you can't really fully give it to other people if you're not giving it to yourself.
That's right.
And often the things that we sort of don't like in somebody else or are annoyed by in somebody else, that we don't really understand why we're so annoyed by it, those are the things that we don't like in ourselves. So if we can, we may not have it to the extent that that person does, but that little bit that we do have, we don't like it. And so if we can cultivate that kind of compassion and love and kindness toward ourselves, then we're able to be more compassionate and loving and kind toward other people.
Yes. Yes.
And it all goes back to the feelings, right? Like, how can I acknowledge what's going on for me, what I feel? And it's really hard to feel that,
Mm. And having
you know?
compassion for that. Okay, yes, it is hard. Let me
That's
just
right.
be here to the best that I can right now. And that's good enough.
Right. I'm doing the best that I can, and it is really hard. And I'm sorry that it's so hard. I really see that it's hard.
Mm.
And it's a tough thing to go through. You say to that other part of yourself, I'm so sorry that you're going through this, you know?
Totally. Yeah, having our
Yeah.
own back, right? What a concept.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, lovely. So, what is the key from here, right? So now we went through acknowledging our feelings, understanding that change is hard, transitions are hard, having practices to get in touch with the feelings, to be in with the feelings, honoring ourselves, getting in touch with intuition. From all of that, we get information about what is right or not right for me, or what is the next thing, or how should I proceed from here, like where there's information in the feelings. So now how do we make progress? How do we actually create the change? What happens next?
Right. Well, I mean, that's the arc of a session and the arc of the process, right?
Mm.
And the end of every session is action. What step can I take right now?
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be different for everybody. I mean, for somebody who's very, very action oriented and is doing so much that they actually can't hear their intuition or their inner voice, or they're going to action before they've actually even processed what's going on for them, and they're just doing and exhausted and in all different directions at once. The
Hmm.
action might be to slow down. The
Very
action
nice.
might be to meditate or journal or breathe
Just
for
sit
five
in
minutes a
silence.
day,
Yeah.
or sit in silence or have a bath or
Yeah.
have a cup of tea where you're just focused on that cup of tea. You know, that might be the action for somebody. For somebody else, it might be, I want you to do this process of getting in touch with your emotions and try, you know, either when it comes up or just try it once a day. And there may be very concrete things that are actions as well, right? So I'm going to do this meditation, or I'm going to journal, or I'm going to write a letter to my fear, or I'm going to, whatever it is, right? I'm going to do that thing. And I also need to make sure to get A, B, C done this week, or
Oh,
A
lovely.
done
I love
this
how you're
week.
saying that. Very nice. Good. So I'm hearing two things in there, Deborah. Beautifully said. One is this is my therapist hat coming in right now.
Good.
So the first one is, let me take an action step towards my well-being, my resilience, my mental health, my feeling better, my taking care of me, right?
That's right.
The meditation, the breathing, the just focusing, the being in the moment, just stop all the noise and all the jumbling around and breathe and slow down, just nourish, compassion. That's part one. Part two is take actionable steps towards creating the change that you're facing.
That's
So
right.
if you're moving, if you're getting divorced, or if you're getting married, or whatever the thing
Or
is,
you're looking for a job, or
you're looking for a
you're right.
job, whatever the thing is that you're dealing
Mhm.
with, what is a practical action that I could take to make a
Mhm.
dent in that big thing that's scaring me or
That's
that's
right.
throwing me off? So
That's right.
deal with me is part one. Part two, deal with the thing.
Mhm.
I love it.
That's right. Yeah.
Yay. Very,
Because you
very
have to
nice.
work on both at the same time, right?
Totally. Totally.
And you have to apply what you're learning to your life and to your relationships and to moving forward, right?
Yes.
Otherwise, what's the point?
That's right. That's right. Then you're just talking and not creating change.
That's right.
And the change is kicking your butt.
Yeah.
The change is changing is not with you on board. The change is dragging
Right. Right. Yeah. What is it? Either, I don't know, there's an expression on that, I can't remember. It's like if you're going to either get dragged, either I'm going to take the step or I'm going to get dragged,
you.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
something like that. Yeah,
right.
exactly, for sure. Okay, beautiful. Any other thoughts about people could manage transitions and big changes? Any last sprinkles of wisdom that you want to share and impart for the people that are listening?
Well, I think I think the piece about compassion for yourself is really important. Have patience with yourself, have
Mhm.
compassion for yourself, and take the steps. And even if you're afraid, take the steps.
Mm,
That's what courage is, right? So you need to
yes.
get through this. You're going to need courage. You're going to need compassion. You're going to need curiosity. You're going to need all those great C words, right?
I love that. Courage,
Right?
compassion, curiosity. Love it.
Curiosity. Yeah, well, there are probably more. Good communication, right?
Mhm.
All of those
So
things
good.
to just to be good to yourself, be kind to yourself, and and know that this is getting you to the place you need to be. And that right now where you are in the midst of it and all the mess and the muck is actually where you need to be.
Yes. Well, so I'm going to throw in another C word in there, and that is care. Right.
Yes.
So take care of yourself, and in that caring for, okay, yes, I'm supposed to be here. I love how you just said that. It's for me. It's not
Mhm.
happening to me.
That's
And
right.
in being with that and finding the blessings in the upheaval and in the chaos, then that's where the evolution, the change, and all the good stuff happens. And that's
That's
how
right.
you create
And
the life that
even
you
if you
want.
can't see the blessings right now, that's the trust. There are
Mm.
blessings. I don't know what they are. It certainly doesn't seem like it right now. I can't even imagine what they might be, but I'm going to trust that they're there.
And they're going to be on the other side. That's what you said much earlier. I love
Yeah,
that.
that's
So
right.
good. Thank you so much, Deborah, for all these nuggets of wisdom and for sharing
Oh,
the process of change and transition that people might experience and what they could do to have their own back, right? This is so nice and gentle, where
that's
people
right.
usually just through it, and it doesn't
Yeah,
feel so
push
good,
themselves
you
through it.
know?
That's right. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on your
Of
show and for
course.
all of your really thoughtful questions.
My pleasure,
Been
my
really
absolute
nice.
pleasure. And so I have some places where people could connect with you, some of your social media and your website, so people could find you if they're interested in working with you or checking out whatever you have
Great.
to offer. And I know that your gift is a 30 to 45-minute coaching consult.
That's
So
right.
if they want to just check you out and have some fun time
Yeah,
with
and
you,
talk about what they're going through and see how
yeah,
coaching might help them. I'm happy to do that.
very nice. So thank you so much for that generous offer. And thank you so much for being here today. You're lovely. Your energy, your
Oh,
compassion, and your love comes right through. So I really
thank you
appreciate
so
you.
much. Thank
A
you, Emma.
pleasure. You're welcome. So, and for the listeners, until the next one. Bye.